There are a lot of other times throughout the year where I pick up comic books, but I don't put together in a video. So I thought it would be good to kind of have this end of year video where I can kind of show you other stuff that I've picked up that I wasn't managed to put together in a video before. And as well, like, talk about other things related to the hobby while I show some of these books. Okay, let's jump right in. This is a copy of Silver Surfer number 8. I was able to buy at a sale, and normally I don't look for this kind of stuff, but when I see books like this at a price point that I'm happy with, then I'll buy them. And this was about $40, which I thought was a very good price. And as you can see, it's a really nice, sharp copy. I would say it's an 8. Maybe a little better. A solid 8, but I find that very fine or 8.0 is a really happy place with regards to price and grade, especially for kind of these late Silver Age books or early Bronze Age books. Silver Surfer number 8, I picked that up. I also picked up a number 13, again for about the same price, for about $40. And again, like the only reason why I picked these up was because they were discounted pretty heavily. I think like 35 to 40%. And this was also about $40. And it's, this is slightly worse than the previous one. You can see like the spine has a few more dinks. But again, Silver Surfer, this is a very popular title amongst collectors, and a pretty nice copy. And probably the best buy of the bunch when I picked these up, was the number 14 at about $70. But again, a very good price I felt for like a classic issue of Silver Surfer featuring a Spider-Man crossover where, Spider-Man gets his beats in this issue because that's a really bad matchup. Again, this is, I think, a pretty solid 8.0. Doesn't really have anything wrong with it, just some little rounded corners, a few ticks on the spine, but extremely well presenting. And again, I find 8.0 like very fine, like 7 to 8, a really good compromise on condition and price. This was a happy find. I had an opportunity to buy an original Silver Surfer number 4 this year for about $200. It was, a bit of a beater copy, and I couldn't bring myself to it. But I got this for about, I think, $4 or $5. Now it's got a little foxing on the bottom edge there. I don't know if you can see that, but otherwise it's very presentable. But I do really like this reprint cover of number 4. It's a bit different. It's got the black background instead of the blue background, and it was a happy find. It's funny, to give you a little history on this series, Fantasy Masterpieces, along with, I believe, Marvel Super Action at that time, were printed only because Marvel was committed to their advertisers to have so many ads in so many comic books. So what they did was they just printed some of these reprint titles because they just weren't able to produce enough new original material to meet the advertisers' requirements. So what they did was they just, okay, you know what? We'll reprint Avengers and Marvel Super Action, or we'll reprint Silver Surfer and Fantasy Masterpieces. And Silver Surfer was a popular enough character that it can kind of hold its own in a reprint title. That's an interesting piece of trivia about why they printed titles like Fantasy Masterpieces or Marvel Super Action. A heck of a lot cheaper than the original, and if you can pick this up or find it for a cheap price, because some places will definitely charge a premium on this, then I highly recommend it. Now, pretty much all the books that I buy in person, and most of it is locally. There's the rare occasion where if I'm out somewhere outside of the city and I stumble upon, either like a used bookstore or a flea market, I'll kind of browse around. But on the most part, I haven't had too many opportunities to kind of go look around outside of the city, outside of Toronto, to buy comic books. This is a copy of Adventure number 364, and I paid about $15 for it. I do find that DC Silver Age, is pretty affordable, pretty cheap. For $15, that has kind of a great, Super Pets cover. Yeah, a lot of fun, these DC Silver Age books. This is a copy of Brave and Bold number 80, and a wonderful issue with superb Neil Adams artwork. And I do like collecting Neil Adams stuff, especially if they're in decent shape. This cost me about $30. It also features the Creeper teaming up with Batman, but a great cover, certainly a bizarre villain, and classic Neil Adams artwork. Brave and the Bold, number 80. This is a copy of Green Lantern Green Arrow number 82. I'm still working on the Green Lantern Green Arrow Neil Adams run. I have most of them, but I'm still missing, I think, 2 or 3 issues for the run. And this was one of the issues that I was missing. It cost me about $25. It's kind of a mid-grade copy. I prefer to pick up higher grade if I can, but these are starting to become a little more harder to find in the wild in decent shape at a reasonable price. But yeah, Green Lantern 82, another great Neil Adams cover. The Harpies Are Coming. This is also another Neil Adams cover, Action number 399. Very nice shape, probably an 8.5 maybe, or slightly better. Nice high-grade copy. According to my records, I paid about $25 for this. Still feels, very reasonable, very cheap, especially for a really nice high-grade copy. These are very tough to locate in grade. This is a copy of The Atom number 6. And again, as I mentioned before, whenever I come across really nice DC Silver Age in high grade at a good price, I'll pick it up. And this was about $70, which is not nothing, but for an early issue The Atom in this kind of grade, and I'll show you, some close-ups of this. Sorry for the glare. It's got a really nice spine that only the corners are a little fuzzy, but this has got a chance to be probably a 9.0. These are very hard in this kind of grade. Now, there's not a lot of demand for these kind of books, but there are collectors out there that will pay a premium for high grade Silver Age DC books just because they are very difficult to find in this kind of grade. Happy to find this and pick this up at this price. This is a copy of Demon number 3, Jack Kirby's fun run in the 1970s, and I think one of his better efforts. This cost me about $25, which is a little more than I would like to pay, but it's really a nice copy. Like, this is probably 9.2, 9.4 quality with nothing really wrong with it. So, you know what? I certainly do like high grade copies, and still at $25 seemed pretty reasonable to me. A lot of these books I do find at sales. If I find the price is right within what I think is reasonable, then yes, I'll pick them up. This is all in, like $25, like with taxes and everything. I also picked up another copy of The Demon that day, and this is number 13 later in the run. Not as nice as the number 3, but still a pretty decent copy, but this was a lot cheaper. Only $10. This is a copy of Detective number 439, and this is a pretty decent high-grade copy of a DC 100 pager. I believe it also has a Neil Adams cover. Not one of his greatest covers, but still, Neil Adams is Neil Adams. This cost me about $35, and it's pretty decent. I've been collecting 100-page issues for the longest time. I'm missing a lot of the key ones, in particular, DC number 5, which is very expensive and hard to find. Happy to add this to my collection. Now, someone has asked me, like, what particular comic books do you collect? And if you watch my videos, I really don't have a kind of particular focus. Like, I don't specifically collect like Spider-Man or X-Men. Now, there are some titles I do collect. I actually, have been collecting Submariner, the Silver Age run from Marvel, the 1968 run, and I've been collecting that for 20 plus years, but I'm not in any rush to complete the run. I have most of the run, and maybe I'm missing like maybe 12 or 15 issues, but you know, I'll buy them when I see a good opportunity to buy them. And this kind of goes with a lot of other stuff that I buy. My general kind of collecting philosophy is more like, if I see a good deal, what I feel to be a good deal, or if I see something interesting at a good price, then I'll generally buy it. But I really try to limit what I buy, just because, there are like space considerations. And, I did have this kind of idea that anything that I buy, I need to get rid of stuff. And I've not been very good with that this year. Hopefully I'll maybe make more of an effort next year. But I'm not at a critical stage where I have no room to store these comic books. Although, my wife might tell you otherwise. So what do I collect? I just collect old comic books. And when I say old, usually anything from, 1980 and before. Now, it's not to say that I won't buy books from the 1980s or even the 1990s, especially if they're cheap. Because if you watch some of my dollar haul videos, I buy a lot of kind of bulk stuff, which I think is very reasonable. I try to buy stuff that I think is like good quality reading, and as well as kind of oddball esoteric stuff. Again, stuff that I don't always kind of find easily, but if it's cheap, if it's interesting, and if it's old, then yeah, sure, why not? I'm a big fan of the Bronze Age Doctor Strange run, especially the first 5 issues that have amazing artwork by Frank Brunner. Number 3 is actually a reprint, but this is actually, I already have a copy of this. If you're a collector and you like particular covers and you find them for a reasonable price, it's certainly not uncommon for collectors to buy more than one copy of something that they like. And this was about $10. And for me, this is like a classic Doctor Strange Frank Brunner cover. An amazing run with amazing Frank Brunner artwork. Highly recommend you looking for these first 5-6 issues that have these amazing covers. I do like picking up oddball westerns, Silver Age stuff, especially if they are cheap. And typically you can find Marvel westerns for pretty reasonable price. I bought a couple Rawhide Kids, and this is a fairly early issue with number 41. And this was like $15. It's a pretty decent copy. It's a, like a kind of a mid-higher grade copy. There's a few ticks on the spine there, but I would say a very solid 7+. And these are tough to find in nice shape. I also picked up an issue number 65, and again, these were both on sale, so this was also pretty cheap. The color strike on this is actually amazing. It's beautiful. The spine as well is like very tight. There's no major defects. Probably an 8.5 or a 9. A very nice copy. And again, $15. And if I come across like Marvel Silver Age for a reasonable price, like $15, then yes, I will pick that up. So I bought a large run of Swing with Scooter. I think it was about 13 issues, and I'll show you a bunch of them here. It ended up, the average price was about $8 or $9 each. And, I would say they're mostly mid-grade. But when I brought them home, some of them had some issues with them. This number 2 is actually okay, as well as this number 3. These are, generally hard to find in any kind of nice condition. This is the number 7. I think this one had a detached centerfold. This is number 9. This one has a popped lower staple, which is in some ways the bane of a lot of collectors. And this is number 14. Just got a little discoloration top right corner. This is number 21. It's got some slight dust shadowing on the edges. Otherwise, it's pretty good. This is number 22. This is a copy of number 23. Some of the later issues I got were pretty nice. Like maybe a nice 7 to 8. And these are very hard to find in this kind of grade. This is a number 24. This is a number 26. I think this one's also got a pop staple. But again, because these are hard to find and they present pretty well, I'm okay with some of the issues given the overall price. And one more, this is number 30. So yeah, Swing a Scooter. There was one time this year where I actually did buy comic books online. I kind of broke my rule. And the reason why this happened was because it was actually kind of an exceptional case where I was able to buy a group of books for what I thought to be a good price that I just don't see very often. This was a particular collection purchased by Bry's Comics, and if you follow other YouTube channels, you're probably familiar with his channel. He does a lot of really, pretty good videos in terms of what he has purchased lately, as well as what it's like to kind of run an online comic book business. So a shout out to Bry. He does some great videos, but he purchased this one collection called the Wilbur collection, and it's a fascinating collection. It's every single Marvel title from March 1964 to 1980, minus the price variance. So a lot of the collection was raw, and he was selling them in runs. So I bought the run of Tower of Shadows, and this came out to about $11 a copy. That's number 3. They are nice, what I would call mid-grade, like 6.0, some a little bit better, some a little bit worse. But, I was missing enough issues in this run to take the dive and buy the entire run. This is number 6. I think this one's got a slight staple pull. This is number 7. This is number 8 with a great Wrightson cover. This is number 9 as well. This one always has been kind of elusive for me in, decent shape at a decent price. So this is one of the reasons why I bought the entire run. And this is the King Size Special, number 1. I do have a copy of number 1 that I'm happy with, so I was fine there. 2 other runs from Bry. Another one was Wyatt Earp. This Western title for me has been very elusive in nice condition. To get the entire run in one shot, I was very happy with. This is number 30. This is number 31. Again, these are nice mid-grade copies that don't have any significant issues. Again, these are very hard to find in any grade, in my experience, just because they're not very popular with collectors and they were reprints, and this was a short run. So I'm happy to kind of show these because you just don't see these kind of books that often. This was a very short run, so the entire run of Wyatt Earp. Again, all of them kind of like in this nice 6 to 7, maybe some up to 8 condition. And even better, the price point for these, the average price was about $7. And that's including shipping, which is something because to get these shipped to Canada is a pain because not only is shipping considerably more expensive, as well you have to pay duties. The last run that I bought from Bry was the Yogi Bear run. I do have a nice copy of number 1. I do have some of the other issues, but it was, nice to get like a run of Hanna-Barbera titles. And Yogi Bear is like one of my favorite characters from that time. So this is number 3. Number 4. These I found were in better condition. Although some of them, this number 5 has what's called the distributor ink on the top edge. So these might have been returns, probably returns, as they have the distributor ink spray on the top. Number 6. Number 7. This is number 8. And the last issue, number 9. It's kind of interesting to think that over time, collecting habits change. And I've certainly watched other YouTubers and see how their kind of collecting habits evolve over time. And you know what? That's great. And I think as you maybe kind of mature as a collector, you'll find new stuff that interests you, and perhaps like some of the stuff that you used to like just kind of falls out of interest. And I think that's totally natural. This is a copy of Chilling Adventures in Sorcery #5. And this is actually the first Red Circle Fawcett book in my collection. This issue has amazing artwork by Gray Morrow and, you know, quite a spectacular cover. And I picked this up for $10 and it's really nice. There are certainly collectors out there for this kind of stuff, but as well, like, you know, this is the kind of stuff that originally I would see in the chibi bins for a long time ago. But now, you know, this is a lot harder to find, and this is a really nice copy, and I thought a very good buy at $10, and I got this on sale. So why on earth would I buy this? This is a copy of Dragon Wheels #34, published by Charlton. And the reason why I picked this up was because it was just really cheap. I think it was $5, and it's a high-grade copy. And I'd like to pick up oddball items, like oddball books, just to have kind of an example of them. One thing that I want to do with this channel is kind of to bring a higher profile to some of these books that you know really don't get enough attention. Maybe some of them deservedly so, but Charlton was, I think, one of the only publishers that kind of published this kind of title. I know DC published a short series called Hot Wheels, but here is Dragon Wheels #34. So, you know, this series actually lasted a long time. And again, anytime I'm able to find like high-grade books that are, you know, from the 60s for essentially the same cover price as a new comic, I will do so. And I'm happy to buy this for $5, literally $5. And this is a very nice copy. When I go to these sales, I'll take my time. The sections that I really like are the miscellaneous sections, because those are often the sections that I'll have the oddball stuff that I like. And, you know, as well, I think those are the sections that other, you know, people will generally kind of overlook. So if you're a collector like me and like good deals, don't overlook these miscellaneous sections. You know, there's a lot of good stuff in there. This is a nice copy of Not Brand Ek #7. You know, not the greatest selling title for Marvel in the 60s, these kind of humor titles. But, you know, I picked this up for like $8, and this is a pretty nice copy. I do like these kind of oddball humor titles, even if it's Marvel. You know, this is probably a nice 7 or better. Doesn't really have anything wrong with it. But yeah, there you go. Pretty sharp copy of Not Brand Ek #7. This is a copy of Ripley's Believe It or Not, #16. It's a pretty decent copy, and again, the reason why I picked this up, it's in high grade. It was very cheap, $5, I think. And again, because I picked this up on sale, I believe the store that I picked it up was from the Silver Snail, and you know, they have some of these books in their miscellaneous letter section. Sure, for $5, which is essentially the same price of a new comic book with a great painted cover, why not? At that same sale at the Silver Snail, I picked up this copy of Rin Tin Tin. I believe this is issue #21 with a photo cover. Now I actually like photo covers, you know, depending on what it is a photo cover of. And if it's a TV show or a movie, I think it's better than having actually a drawn cover. This is actually 1957, and again, this was like $5. It has a great photo cover. There are collectors of, you know, Dell and the TV or movie related stuff. And again, for a book from 1957 that is, you know, a very solid mid-grade plus copy for that kind of price, I'm happy to buy it. I thought this would also be a good opportunity to maybe answer some questions that I've had, you know, over time from the videos that I've published. And one person asked, what are those little yellow pieces of paper in front of the boxes? And they're just labels. And what I do is I organize my books kind of by publisher and by era. And the reason why I do this is a lot to do with the video content that I make. So you'll find that the videos that I make are often kind of grouped by either publisher, by era, And so I find organizing my books this way is kind of a nice way to kind of come up with different ideas that I have for videos, as well as make the books easier to find. I use like those yellow sticky notes because as well, they peel off easily, and the stuff inside will move around and change, so it's easy to just kind of discard the old one and make a new one if the contents change. Highly recommend doing this for your boxes. Once your collection gets, big, like mine, I think it's about 4,000 books, having your books well organized is a really big deal. Like, as well as if you're constantly buying books, I think one good tip is that you have a to sort box. I used to also have a box that was labeled to read, but, because of the amount of stuff that I've been buying this past year, I ended up, kind of putting that box aside and using it for, other books. So now the stuff that I have in my to read pile, I'll just generally stack on top. But that kind of moves around quite a bit as well, too. This is Adventure into Fear, or Fear number 13, featuring the Man-Thing. And these I got really cheap. Again, these were on sale. Like, this copy is probably a 9 or above, and this was $10. And to me, like, this kind of Bronze Age horror stuff, to locate in this kind of grade for this price, really good. So I got number 13 and also a really nice number 14 with a great Plug cover. Just a micro corner crease in the top, but otherwise the spine is great. But again, to me, for $10 for like what is probably like an 8.5, sure. Giant size Man-Thing number 5. If you like Man-Thing, I would say the giant size issues, specifically number 4 and number 5, have really good stories by Steve Gerber and like really good artwork as well. This issue also has a very early Howard the Duck appearance, and as well the first appearance of Hell Cow. Yes, I said that, the first appearance of Hell Cow. I think this was $10. Pretty happy considering it's in fairly decent shape. There's some dings on the edge and the corner, but otherwise it's very presentable. And again, for that price point, I'm pretty happy about that. This is a copy of Clive Barker's Hellraiser number 1. I picked it up for about $10. It's very nice shape, like, probably 9 to a 9.4. And this was an anthology series that had a lot of great writers and artists. This is the first issue. Other notable issues are number 17 with a long story by Alex Ross, and number 20, which has a story by Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean. Certainly worth checking out if you are a horror fan, and you can generally find these kind of cheap, maybe the cheapy bins if you're lucky. So one other item that I didn't include just because it's kind of big that I purchased was this. And these are the Russ Cochran black and white reprints of EC books. And this one in particular I was really happy to find. And it only cost me, I think it was $20 Canadian, which is like, 15 US or even less. The importance of this is that it has this one story called Master Race, which is often, there are several videos actually on the internet about this particular story by Bernie Krigstein, just as the importance it had on the medium, the comic book story. And I was really happy to find this because it's a beautiful version of it. And there's even like, full articles about the story. And apparently they used the original plates, and so the black and white artwork is just beautiful. A number of videos have been made about this particular one story, and I was really pleased to find this. And only $20 at a used bookstore. These can often be a lot pricier out on the open market. Highly recommend it. The first issue of Impact by EC. One of my happiest buys of this past year was this, and I actually featured this in one of my previous videos talking about Rare 1960s Marvel Comics. This is Strange Tales Annual Number 1, published in 1962. Now, this is certainly not a high-grade copy by any means. I would say somewhere between a 3 and a 4. A little bit of creasing on the spine and the top, but otherwise, it's a very nice, presentable copy. And this cost me about $125, which to me I think is a very reasonable price for a book like this. That's tough to find in any kind of decent condition. It's all reprints, but this kind of stuff I love, which is, this monster stuff. Very happy to find something like this at this kind of price. I want to say that prices certainly have seemed kind of soft. Retailers, I'm finding, will give you a break if you buy a number of books, or if they've had a book in their stock for a while. So I was able to get a little bit of a better deal on this than the sticker price when I bought it. I did buy some really nice high-grade Fantastic Four and with Doom covers. I'm not going to say how much I paid for these, because if my wife ever watches these videos, she'd give me grief. But I want to show you a few of the FFs that I bought. This is a really nice copy of number 58. The only thing wrong with this, though, is if you look carefully on the spine, you can't really see here, it was manufactured only with one staple, which is a bit of an issue, but still a very well presenting, super nice high-grade copy. And these can be extremely expensive in this kind of grade, and the price I paid I thought was fair. These can be very expensive, especially anything with Doom these days, but I thought I would jump at that opportunity to buy a nice copy of FF number 58. I also got two others. A number 84, that's also really nice. It's got nice corners, micro stresses on the spine, but I got a feeling this is probably an 8 or an 8.5. And a copy of number 86. And this one historically seems to be pretty easy to find in higher grade. It's one of these kind of Mile High 2 collection books that survived in better condition, but this is a really sharp copy. I'm going to say it's probably a 9 or potentially better. But a classic Doom cover. Very happy to add this to my collection. The vast majority of these comic books that I picked up are usually through sales or at places that I know have very good deals on comic books. And if you go to like a normal comic book brick and mortar store in Toronto, I find that prices are high, and I think that kind of applies everywhere. But what I found over time is that I follow stores on Instagram and look out for when they have sales, and to me this is really the opportunity to buy. I like good deals, and I think as a comic book collector you're always looking for good deals, so I try to keep tabs on when these stores have sales. And other places that I've mentioned in the past, like used bookstores, in particular like BMV Books, I know they price their books, what I would say, to move. And they know their local market very well, and they move a lot of product. Often, like when they post their new items on Instagram, I just miss out, because a lot of people are aware of how well they price their books, and they're often gone in a matter of a day or two. If you're looking to buy locally in your city, certainly look out for their kind of social media like platforms to see if they promote sales, because I find that's really the best way to get good deals. And you know what? You're going to miss out. Like, I've missed out on so many good opportunities this past year and in the years past. You just kind of have to learn to accept that you're not going to always, score that big deal. Like, I've learned to kind of temper my expectations in terms of when I go to these sales, because certainly there will always be somebody there that's going to beat you to the punch. So, accept that, but know that there are just a gazillion comic books out there, and there are tons of really good deals. You just got to be patient. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this haul video, you can check out another one of my haul videos over here. Until next time, enjoy and read your comic books.